Hello, hello.
What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Mic Check podcast. You are now live with Quinton and one of my good friends, man. One of the men to get on this show when we originally started this, as I'm having a slight little bit of technical difficulties. Let me see if I can get this to pull up here. Get rid of this. There we go. All right.
What's going on, my brother?
What's going on, man? What's going on? It's great to have you on. For those who don't know, this is one of my best friends. Good guy I've known for a very, very long time. Former high school teammate of mine. College basketball player like myself. We have a lot of things in common going back to our childhood days. So really great to have him on. Devon Alexander. We want to give him a round of applause. Appreciate everybody for joining. Welcome.
It's good to be here. It's good to be here, brother.
Absolutely. So Devon and I, we have had years and years and years of basketball debates offline. Whether you're talking about Kobe versus Bron, whether you're talking Kobe versus MJ, if you're talking about Steph versus Dame, if you're talking anybody, man, we have had opposing views on a lot of different things from similar things of that nature. So this is going to be a really good conversation because we're going to have an opportunity to talk some NBA news, to talk some NBA playoffs, a little bit of boxing at the end. So everybody that wants to tune in for some boxing takes that typically watch our show, please stay tuned. That's going to be the last topic that we touch on before we sign off. But, man, first things off, man, we want to go back and just give a short story, man. What's your first recollection of how we met and your impression of our relationship, how it began?
Most definitely. Well, thank you for having me on, brother. It's been long overdue, as you stated. And, my first memory comes back to, man, my RC Rebel days, running Rebel days, when my dad was a travel ball coach. Yeah. And, we would go everywhere throughout the IE, through the Inland Empire, from Riverside all the way down to LA, bounced around. I think we ran into this blue and yellow team with the dude that loved this headband. And and we were like, man, hold on, this dude's pretty big. He might be a problem for us. I think we may have played each other once or twice.
Yeah.
And I think you were a year older than me. I've always played up, so it was a good experience. And then next thing you know, I get a call from a couple of teammates at my high school that you might be coming into town and joining Summit High School. So I was like, man, let's go. Yeah. But I knew your competitive spirit was going to be a little bit of a problem for me because you and me both have that leadership mentality and where we want to, give our opinion, which is good for the sport. But sometimes it doesn't work out with those types of personalities. But I think we made it work just fine. So.
100%, man. I mean, the one thing that I remember about you, and I think it goes back to just, the people that you're surrounded by, your family, and most importantly, was just a calm demeanor out there on the floor. And that's something that I really admired, not because that affects everybody else on the court, but it brings a sense of comfort to yourself while you're out there in tight pressure situations. And for those that don't know, Devon, after we played together, we played 2 years of high school basketball together, arguably the two best years probably as far as enjoyment is concerned of my basketball career, right? Come from those 2 years that we played together.
It's a good times, man.
Really, really great teams at Summit High School. For those that don't know, Fontana, California has only had 2 state finalists. It's only had 2 Southern Regional titleists, and Devon and I were a part of one of those teams. So really special memories that get made that you get to have that last a lifetime. Obviously, the love is always there, no matter how long it takes, for us to reconnect. So we're gonna get into some topics, man. And really, I think the first thing that we really wanted to talk about when we talked about, putting this stuff together was just in general the NBA playoffs, man. The NBA playoffs are ripping and running. They're fast approaching with a lot of great games. And this is a great example, unfortunately, of a situation where tonight, there's going to be probably the 2 most series are going to have games going on simultaneously. Unfortunately for fans, this happens a lot in boxing. And Devon is a big UFC fan, a little bit than myself. I'm a little bit more of a boxing fan, a little bit more so than him. But we deal with this in the fight game all the time where There's more than one fight that you may want to watch at the same time. You've got to have multiple
Yep.
screens on. You've got the TV on. You've got the computer on. You got the tablet set up to try to consume as much of the sport that you love as possible. Tonight, we've got the Suns playing against the Clippers. First game in LA tonight, as well as Devon can tell, the Warriors are going back home to try and save their season. So I guess we can start there. Man, what's been your overall thoughts on the playoffs as a whole so far? And what you expect moving forward?
Yeah, honestly, this year, when you're talking about how volatile, the NBA market has been with so many different unexpected trades and teams. I mean, I remember the Utah Jazz started the season off really hot this year, and now you look at them; they're not even in the playoffs, which shows, and it's credit to the NBA and how the game is changing. Where LeBron and KD, those guys are starting to get older, and so the talent is sort of spreading out across especially the East Coast. Man, the East is stacked. I think the playoffs have been, um, you know, they've been showing that and they've been displaying that, and I think Denver, obviously in the West, is really really strong. If I had to choose a team right now that looks the most complete and experienced, has youth, but also has the been there talent, that would be Boston.
Yeah.
And I hate saying that, even though we took care of them last year. Golden State right now, we're in trouble because not only have we never been here before, but I think Steve Kerr is still trying to figure out his rotation in the playoffs still, because I was a little bit surprised he didn't play Kuminga against a team like Sacramento that was a little bit more athletic than we're used to playing. But again, this is a good challenge for us, man. I mean, this is why we love the playoffs, is because you get in situations where you've never been in, and you got to see. So it's been awesome. It's been good to watch.
Yeah, man. And the one thing that I can say that I've noticed just through this playoffs, and I noticed a little bit of it last year, was just the amount of parity amongst teams, right? In previous years, when you go back to time in high school, when you go back to our time in college, the NBA had its definitive, 3, maybe 4 teams that were just head and shoulders above the rest of the teams. But we have a lot of series that we're going to get into talking about it, where the lower seeded team is the team that seems to have the advantage and seems to be the better matchup. Now, we used to see that, there were times where, you talk about 2007 Mavericks when they played the Warriors, right? Where they just ran up against a team that was a hard matchup for them. When you talk about having Baron Davis, Steven Jackson, Matt Barnes, all of these.
Throw Andre Beatrice in there, yep.
Andre Beatrice, all of these exchangeable players, right? That can give a team like the Dallas Mavericks at the time, a really good run for their money, and ultimately ended up beating them. I believe they beat them in 6 games. But we're seeing a lot of that this year. When you talk about, the Lakers playing Memphis, until last, I think barring, last night's game, I still think that the Lakers are overall the better team. I think even if Ja isn't hurt, I think that they're the team. I think we're going to get a more clear picture on how well the Grizzlies can do without their star player on the road, because the old saying goes that, your role players play best at home. Your stars are made to play best on. Memphis is going to be going on the road without their star. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they respond to what will be a very, very hostile environment for sure. Just wanted to get your thoughts, man. 2 games that, the Warriors had a real chance to win, but were not able to do so. And I didn't look this up, but I'm pretty sure this is the first time in the last 5 seasons that they've been down 0-2 in a series. Now, some of that comes down to the fact that they've had a home court advantage, so they rarely lose 2 games in a row at home. But just based on what you've seen, do you think that they will come back in this series? And if so, how do you think it has to happen?
Well, as a fan, the fan in me is always going to say yes. We're gonna come back and win the series, but realistically, it could be tough. We might have to stretch this out now 7 games. The first game we should have won. I think everybody that was watching that game probably felt like the Warriors had control. I mean, we were up for 3 quarters and gave it away at the end of the game there. But um, I mean, I have the two best shooters with Steph and Clay, and the thing with Draymond, I mean, Draymond's situation is going to hurt us a lot. But the fact that we're at home, I still think we can get it done without him. Now, that stat that we've never been down 0-2 in a playoff series since the Steph and Clay and Draymond era is true. And to add to that, I don't think that we've won a playoff series. And I think there's only one or two instances where this has happened. But Draymond Green has been out, where he has been out or suspended one game. And that happened to be your boy LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers that came back and took care of that heartache for me. But and to touch on, I mean, Memphis, I definitely think Lakers are going to win that series in 6, just specifically because Ja Morant is not healthy, and that X factor on the road is huge.
Yeah.
Like you said, but people underrate the Kings, man, still to this day. And I mean, De'Aaron Fox, I mean, how much more does he need to prove to people? You know, I mean, this guy is unbelievably quick. He's a hard guard for a 1, 2, 3, 4, or a 5. Like, you don't really get PGs, you know, with his type of explosiveness and game changing ability. But I mean, it's going to be exciting, man. You'll see tonight. I think we get tonight pretty comfortably.
Yeah, man. I think realistically, what it comes down to now is the Warriors' ability to do something that they're not always comfortable doing. The Warriors have always, in my opinion, in the time that I've been watching them, you know, as currently constructed, when you talk about that core of, you know, Draymond, Clay, Steph, Steve Kerr, they've always been a team that other teams slowed down in order to be successful against them, limited possessions in order to be successful against them. But ironically, it seems like it's the Warriors this time around that need to do the slowing down in order to be successful in games. And I think that that's going to be the biggest struggle on their end, is that they're going to have that temptation of wanting to have these 115, 125, these 125, 130 games. But the reality says is that they were winning those games like that 7, 8, 9 years ago, when all of the guys in their core were in their mid to late 20s. All those guys now are in their mid to early 30s. And sometimes, man, you just run up a team that's just younger, fresher, faster, and more prepared to do what needs to be done. I think you're going to see some of that even so in the series out in the Eastern Conference, when you're talking about teams like Cleveland, teams like the Knicks, who are playing against each other, who have similar styles, but really the Knicks are an older team, and their success is going to come from slowing games down and trying to win those high 90s games, as opposed to being tempted to run like they may want to.
Right. The Knicks, I love the Knicks, man, on the East Coast. I even told a couple of my buddies we're talking about the other day, I said, if the Knicks could get past the Cavs, they have a legit shot to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. And it's that feeling, because when they traded for Josh Hart, you knew they were missing some sort of key piece prior to that I don't know if it was defensively. I thought they needed more shooting, but I think Josh Hart actually complements everybody on that team perfectly, man, because when he was with the Blazers, which, I mean, you know, I live near Portland, Oregon, and I would go to the games all the time. I love Josh Hart, but it just wasn't a good fit, because the Blazers are very, you know, Dame oriented, guard dominant. So, you know, when you have something like that, Josh Hart spreading the floor doesn't really fit into a system like that. But then you got Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, you got in double team. So all he really has to do is play D and hit 1 or 2 threes a game. And he's fulfilling that position beautifully.
Yeah, for sure. So, man, that leads us to the ultimate deciding factor here, man. What's your finals prediction, and who you think are the two teams that are going to come out of these two conferences? Now that we've gotten to see a few games, I think all the teams have played at least 2 games in a series so far. So we've gotten to see these teams and what they'll currently be constructed as in the postseason. Who do you think comes out of the West of these?
I think the West is still, I mean, I have not seen a team regular season, and obviously we're going to find out, but it looks like Minnesota could have gotten their one chance to steal a game last night. But Denver, man, the Denver Nuggets are pretty much complete. I think they have depth. They have shooting. I love those guys off the bench, Bruce Brown and what's that guy's name? Christian Braun. That kid is phenomenal. And then you have one of the top, I would say top 10 PGs in the league, and Jamal Murray, and then you have the Joker. So like as a GM or as a team owner, I mean, you can't ask much more than that. And then on the East Coast side, I think it'll come down between Boston and Philly. You know, I think they play each other next. If I'm looking at the bracket in my mind right, and I think Boston, they were there last year. They're hungry. They didn't forget about what happened, and I think Jason Tatum has that little Kobe feeling in his heart. So I think he's going to try to bounce back.
Yeah, man, no doubt. And I think for me, I agree with you. And more definitively, I'm taking Boston in the East. I think that as a fan, as a person who might be a fan, the one thing that you're always going to be worried about as a Sixers fan, if you are one, is stars you rely on. There's always something wrong. There's always something wrong. It's kind of like this AD effect that I'm having with the Lakers right now. There's always something wrong. There's always something coming, right? It's an ankle. It's a it's a stomach virus. It's always
every time
with Joel Embiid or with James Harden. James Harden, not necessarily so much with games, but with his play, right? His play is up and down, right? His play is up and down. And he's very similar to AD in that way. And then Joel Embiid, to me, is very similar to AD when you talk about nicks and knacks and injuries and things of those nature that guys, for a reason, have not seemed to be able to fix, now that they both, AD's over 10 years in the league. I think he's coming on like his 8th year, 7th year in the league. So, those are major issues that both of those guys are constantly facing. So that's why I'm not picking Philly. That ultimately Boston is a tougher team, a more well-constructed team. And honestly, I think they're a better coach team. I think that Doc Rivers is slightly overrated aspect. He's Mr. Down, up 3-1 and lose a 3-1 series lead. He's the only coach I've ever seen that's done it more than once. That says a lot there. When you talk about the West, man, that's the part that's really difficult for me because I think, honestly, I've liked the way I've seen the Lakers. I've also liked what I saw from the Clippers, and I've liked what I saw in response from the Suns. So realistically, if I'm going to have, probably going to say that the Suns get it done, and we see a Suns versus Celtics final series, because I think ultimately the Clippers got out of Westbrook in the first game, in a lot of shots, but he was able to contribute in other ways. I don't know that he's going to be able to do that the duration of the series, and I think he will have some more offensive games at a point where they really need him to score because Paul George is out. So my pick is the Suns.
Yeah.
Come out of the West.
Yeah, I like the Suns too. The thing with the Suns is they're not as deep as they seem for a playoff run. I mean, KD goes out again or injury, it's done. The season's over. I mean, you can't say that. You can say that about a lot of teams if they're one or two punches, but you can't say that much about Boston. I think Boston can still win and get through a couple of games, let's say, without one or two of their stars because they're a better team-oriented, basketball team. They're 1 through 10 well coached, like you said, by Mazzulla, and he's more of a let them play on the offensive side very loosely, but focus on the defensive type of coach. Like that's his style. The Suns, I love Monty Williams, man. I love him, so I really want him to get one. And I think this is one of his best shots. I mean, you got KD over here, so I know they're gonna go all out, but they're gonna struggle with that man, Kawhi Leonard. I mean, we keep saying it time and time again. He's not the most exciting player to watch. He's definitely awkward off the court, but he has that Kobe mentality in the sense that he loves the game and he loves competing and he loves being at his best. And win, lose, or draw, you heard him in the interview the other night. I mean, it's just about giving your best effort. Yeah. So he might have something to say about that, but man, I'm excited. The West Coast has the most variance or variability when it comes to who can win the West. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. So next we'll go on to, man, is who should win the NBA MVP and why? This is one of the things that I think has been very, very, when you talk to different people, fans, you see, media execs, sports writers' opinion about who they think should win the MVP. There's varying ways and various, options that you can go with this. What's your take on who should win MVP and why?
I would give it to Embiid. Embiid has I think shown a different style leadership this year. I think he's been less talk, less up in the media, less with all the outside hype and following and paying attention to that. And he's just been playing. I mean, this dude's starting to shoot fadeaway jumpers from the mid post, and that's scary at his size. I mean, he's catching that ball, and you just see with this Nets. I mean, they're going to run right over the Nets literally by putting Embiid at that mid post area. So, and I mean, he's got, I think, the least amount. I'm saying this, and I mean this. I think he's got the least amount of depth and talent around him out of all of the stars. So Jason Tatum and the Joker would be, my 2 and 3. Those interchangeably, no order. But like, if I had to pick, it'd be Embiid, Tatum, or the Joker for sure.
Yeah, man. My pick is clear cut for me. Joel Embiid is my pick for NBA MVP. He's done the most with less, as you mentioned. He's been really, really good when it comes to being available to play. I think that may have been what's kept him from winning MVPs in previous seasons.
That's a good point.
Giannis, was more available and producing at the same clip. You had Joker producing at the same clip, but was winning more in seasons, who had better performances in the playoffs, things of that nature. But I think this is the season that Joel Embiid has really put it all together. So it's ironic because I can believe in him and give him the pick for regular season MVP, while also saying, hey, listen, I don't have the belief or the faith that he can do this in the playoffs, just based on previous history. So I'm willing to give him MVP. I'd be happy for him if I was an NBA exec voter. But realistically, I think that's about the pinnacle of his season, because I think they lose in the next round.
Not a bad take there. I think they lose in the next round too, if I get my future bet right.
Absolutely. So next thing we wanted to talk about, man, was really just going to be Lakers City, man. I mean, the Lakers started the season 2-10. It looked like a dumpster fire, with all due respect to the players that were out there playing, right? Nobody.
Be careful, man. I'm in my dad's house, man.
No, and that's just me being completely honest, right? As a guy who, is rooting for the Lakers, who wants the Lakers to do well this season, wants them to, reclaim, what the glory, what they used to be, right? It did not start off well. And I remember seeing a stat, man, it was crazy. It said, after that 12-game stretch where they were 2-10, the Lakers had a 0.03% chance of just making the playoffs.
Yeah.
So in that situation, you already playing with house money. Everybody that knows Devon knows that Devon likes to, bet a parlay every now and then, right? So if you wanted to bet some money at that point, you would have made yourself a lot of money.
That was the time to do it. That was the time to do it.
That was the time to do it. So just looking at the brackets, man, looking at the matchups, we've already came to an agreement, right? We think that they'll get past Memphis. If we look at this next, let me see, I'll bring this back up, this bracket. The Lakers, if they were to win this next series, they would be playing the winner of the Kings and Warriors series. So I guess that brings us to a point that we need to decide there too. What's your thoughts on how that series is going to go for the Warriors? And do you think how long that series might affect how well they may be able to, if the Lakers are able to get rid of the Grizzlies?
No, that's a good point. That's the perfect, if you're thinking as a fan or as a coach or diehard, I mean, we're down 0-2. So if you look at it, we at least have 4 games more. So we're going to play 6 games in this series. And as you pointed out, we're not the youngest. We have youth, but we're a little bit banged up. And I mean, Jordan Poole, which played phenomenally in the playoffs last year, and we have GP back. GP just started playing again. He's still getting out of his.
He was out a long time.
Really long time, man. And so like our core is there, but like I said, we're still figuring out the rotations. I think with Steve Kerr, and because I've seen him play different lineups that I haven't not seen before in this series, so he might be overthinking it a little bit. But like Moses Moody came in, and I thought he did phenomenal in this, but he's not the guy for this series. I think we need a Kuminga, stick to your Looney, and if we get this series tied at 2-2, then I think we'll win the series. But if we drop one at our home, we might be in Cancun a little bit early this year. But that, to point out on the flip side of that, when you look at 2 versus 7, the Lakers have the easiest road and the easiest way to the Western Conference Finals by playing either us or the Kings, because I think they match up with us and with the Kings better than definitely those top 4. I think they're going to do work against the Kings if somehow the Kings do get past us. I think they're going to dominate with their size, and as you start seeing, the Lakers have a lot of guards. They have a lot of guards surrounding LeBron. I mean, we don't have the best. When I say we, I used to be a diehard Laker, and I'm still a Laker fan. So I'm just letting the public know.
Part time.
But like Austin Reeves, if he keeps doing what he's doing, and he's giving LeBron and AD, which really he's giving AD that extra cushion on the offensive end by letting LeBron sort of be a rover on both ends of the floor as he's getting older. I mean, I think this is the perfect situation for them, the Lakers. They've got exactly what they want considering where they started in the beginning of the year. But man, I can't wait. I'm gonna make a future bet here pretty shortly. So hopefully hopefully Lakers do their thing.
Yeah, and it's just one of those unique things, man, because I think when you look at the Lakers as a whole, right, you look at them on paper, they have a little bit of everything that you need ingredient-wise to win a championship. You got 2 guys that can both go off for 40 if you need it. They have, 2 guards that both are equally comfortable handling, the responsibilities, the distributing responsibilities. When you talk about D'Angelo Russell, you talk about Austin Reeves.
Oh, Russell was a good pickup, man. Good pickup there.
And even in games when D'Angelo has not played up to his own expectations, right? Because he's had 2 fairly low, volume games, so to speak, where he hasn't made a whole lot of noise in either of those games. I think going back home in a series that, coming into it, a lot of people had strong questions about whether or not they would even be able to compete at this level. I think that this is a great opportunity for one of those other guys to have 2 huge games at home. If they get that, I think they realistically will win this series because, I mean, Memphis played about as good as you can play without a star player this past game in game 2 last night. You don't expect your 3rd string center to go off for 22 points, 9 rebounds, and hit 2 threes, right? You don't expect Dylan Brooks to hit 2 dagger threes when he's shooting 31% from 3 on the season, when you're trying to make a comeback, and then you certainly don't expect, Anthony Davis to go, 10 points until the final shot of the game, in 7 rebounds. That's just not what you expect in a playoff series.
Right.
So if any of those things don't happen, I think the Lakers can feel comfortable knowing, hey, we'll get some contributions. And I want to say this because we haven't mentioned it yet about the Lakers, but Rui Hachimura. Man, the dude has played about as well as we could have asked. I mean,
phenomenal game 1. Phenomenal game 1.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think these were his first 2 playoff games in his career because I don't think he was on. He might have been a rookie the last year John Wall was there when they made the playoffs. That might have been his rookie season because I feel like I remember them both playing together for 1 year. I'll have to double check on that. But if it's not his first series, it's only his second. So, for him to be in this position, to be coming off the bench in a completely new role, because he was a starter most of his time in DC, he's really, really played well. And he's at this point unfortunately, he's almost made Vanderbilt, a non-player at this point, because the main reason we had Vanderbilt was to guard Ja. Well, with Ja not playing, we can put another player on the floor that can score and do more on the offensive end. and help us spread the floor. So
Yeah, no, I mean Rui, what do you have? 28 the first game,
27 in the first game, 21 in the second game.
27. Oh my God! And then we went like five. He hit 5 threes. I mean, no one could have called that, but the fact that he followed it up with another 20-point game. I mean, and you just said it. Vanderbilt's defensive guy. I mean, that dude probably won't even look at the, if he has the ball at the 3-point line, he won't look at the rim. But it's situational basketball. That's what playoffs are about. And I give credit to Coach Darvin Ham. I mean, that was beautiful, and he let Rui play more. And I think when LeBron's the perfect player. If you're an outside star guy, you want to play with a guy like LeBron, because once he notices that you have that little it going and you have that fire going, man, and D'Angelo Russell too, they're going to keep feeding you. They kept. I think all 5 of his threes either came from, and don't quote me on it, one was from a beautiful behind the back from the great white hope Austin Reeves, but like I think it was all just rotation, and the Lakers haven't had much of that, especially early on in the first season where they got rotational 3-point wide open shots. So, I love it, man. I love Laker basketball is back in the playoffs. It's good for the NBA.
Absolutely. So next topic we're going to talk about, man, is actually some stuff that may be happening this offseason. We may start this turning it back around to a Lakers dynamic, depending on how well the Lakers do this postseason. But Kyrie Irving, man, I mean, everybody knows that Kyrie Irving is a once-in-a-generational talent. He is a star amongst himself, right? He's a guy that people will buy tickets just to go see him play on a team where he's by himself, because he's that entertaining. He's that, as Stephen A. Smith would like to say, box office, right? He's a guy that people pay to see. What do you think he should do? And if that's any different from what do you think he will do this offseason when it comes to where he goes in free agency?
I'll answer it like this. I think he will not listen to anybody's advice, which he has the total he has the total, I mean, he has the total right to do that. But a lot of the off the court stuff, and it sucks because it's tainting a very fabulous player's current career. I say current, it doesn't mean it's going to finish that way. But Kyrie's, man, he's one of my favorite players, and I'm a Steph guy. Okay, so I'm a big time Steph guy, and those two are, I think, the top 2 generational game changers in terms of point guards in the last, like, I don't even know, 15 seasons. We haven't seen much of that. But Kyrie, I think, will stay with the Mavericks because I think Mark Cuban is a better owner fit for him. Honestly, I think, and I've listened to Mark Cuban talk on different podcasts. I've heard him talk on he went on, Kyrie went on with LaShawn McCoy in the I am an athlete podcast. I've listened to his story and talk, but like, I think Kyrie is just trying to express his values, himself and his lineage, which is totally good. But when you have a platform like he has, you just got to be strategic about the way that comes off, because no matter what, once you're a celebrity, you have a platform where you will, have people follow you intangibly, and on and off the court. And I think that's what's affecting Kyrie right now. Now, what he should do, he should stay. I think he will stay, and I think he should stay, because I think if you look at his age, what is he, 31? He's 31 right now.
He's a 2010 grad, and I know he's at least a full year older than that normal class. So I think he is 31, because I'm 29.
Yeah,
so 2 years older than me.
Yeah. So I mean, he has a good 4-5 year contract still left in him, and you have Luka Doncic, who the youth. I mean, you just got to surround yourself with those 2 guys with the right amount of talent. I think that's why the Mavs kind of pulled back a little bit. I think they're trying to, they didn't play that last game, which they could have still had a chance to go into the playoff series. But I mean, that's my take from looking at it. From my viewpoint, it's hard to guess what Kyrie's gonna do, man. I think he has the total right and respect to do whatever he wants to do, but he's one of those guys. He's one of those guys that you just don't know. It's unpredictability.
Yeah. Shout out to my co-host T Word. He says, "Good show, fellas. Got to run it back, but y'all knock it out the park." Appreciate you, T, for watching. T is actually out in Las Vegas. I don't know that he's going to be going to the fight, but he has been at all the pre-fight, exhibits, events, and everything that they've had going on there, the media workouts and things like that, getting us some great content there for Davis versus Garcia, which is going to be the last topic that we touch on. Yes, we are going to get to talk about that a little bit. And T is a guy who, loves boxing as much as I do. We have talked boxing for a long time. So appreciate you watching T, taking some time out of your day. He's also trying to do a little work/family vacation. He's got his family out there with him. So appreciate you tapping in.
Enjoy your thing, T.
Appreciate it, man. So, yeah, man, I mean, for me, when you talk about Kyrie, before the playoffs started and before the Lakers won the play-in, got into the playoffs, I probably would have said that he should still go to the Lakers, because I kind of felt like if you look at Kyrie's career, there's and he won't like me saying this if he was to hear this, but there's the pre-LeBron career for Kyrie, right, where he was a star, he became a young star, everybody knew how good he was, but it didn't result in wins, right? Mm-hmm. They had, I believe, 2 number 1 picks during the time that he was on the Cavs, which says everything you need to know about how well the team is doing. They picked Andrew Wiggins with 1, they picked with the other, and then ended up trading Andrew Wiggins on draft day because they wanted to get Kevin Love and go with a more veteran presence there when LeBron decided to come back. Then there's the time that he had with LeBron, which was super, super, super successful. I believe they played together for 3 years. You're talking 3 finals appearances. 4 years. I'm sorry. 4 finals appearances. They won 1. He got injured in the first one. They lost the final 2. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was correct. 3 years, because he wasn't there for the final one that the Warriors won against the Cavs. And then he goes on to the Celtics, and it doesn't work there. And then he goes on to the Nets, and it doesn't work there. Now he's with the Mavericks. So now we're talking, 3 teams in like a 5 or 6 year span for a guy who's a generational talent. I think that this might just mean that he's just not the guy you look to be a leader, and he needs to be with strong leadership. And I have to be honest and tell you, I don't think that answer is Luka. I don't think that Luka is a great leader in his own right either. I think that Luka has some growing up to do. I think that Kyrie has just decided that he just does not want to be a leader. And I've had conversations with my dad about this. I thought ultimately the reason that KD and Kyrie didn't work out is because neither one of them wanted to sacrifice and be the bad guy and say the things that need to be said in practices, in games, on the bus, in film session, that were going to get that team as far as they could go. I think that those 2 guys just were happy to get out on the court, to score their 30 points, their 35 points, and go home with the money and the game check they got. I don't think that those guys were fully bought in as a unit to trying to win. And that's why I think that what it means for Kyrie is that he needs to go somewhere with strong leadership. I don't think that there's better strong leadership than LeBron now. Obviously, when you talk about how things are going to go moving forward, now that the Lakers are potentially looking at a strong chance that they could make the Western Conference Finals, ultimately it comes down to a decision that Rob Pelinka, Jeannie Buss, and the rest of the executives for the Lakers are going to have to make on Kyrie is, do we want to give up all of the hard work we did to get the players and make the core that we've made, make the team the way we've made it currently constructed, for a generational talent not work out? Or do we want to go ahead and keep the guys we have and run it back if we don't win it this season with the same guys as is currently constructed, hoping that LeBron is still the same player next year, hoping that Anthony Davis finally turns the corner and becomes the top 5 NBA player that we all believe that he can be? I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. But I don't know if they're going to be willing to do that now with the fact that they seem like they're in a good place, as currently constructed.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head. Like, leadership, Kyrie has to have another figure on the team leading, because he has so much, and it's not a bad thing, okay, when you're trying to express where you came from and your lineage and all that stuff. But when with the whole anti-Semitic deal, how he lost his Nike endorsement and all that, his contract, like, you have to know how to manage your platform. And I think Rob Pelinka, that's why I think the Lakers didn't even make an offer. Like, there was no formal offer there was a discussion, but from what I heard about it was Rob Pelinka was like, no, we don't need that. And when he says we don't need that, he's not talking about his talent. He's
Talking about
definitely
everything
he's
else
talking
that comes with it.
every LA is already prima donna and drama as it is. So I don't think that he can go to the Lakers. And LeBron talked about it briefly, and he moved on really quick. I think he said something like, he said, "Man, is it me?" or something like that. And then when they asked him about it, he was like, "Of course, I would want to play with Kyrie. Of course, we have chemistry, winning chemistry on the court together." He was like, "But," he was like, "it didn't happen, so I'm going to move on from it, and I'm going to focus on what I need to focus on." So LeBron's really good with that. He kind of accepts whatever's happening in the moment, and he's the best leader in the NBA, and honestly, one of the top leaders when you're talking about leading multiple teams and bringing up the level of play from his guys. That's LeBron James, but
Yeah.
I don't think Rob Pelinka could have seen that. I think LeBron could have got a handle on Kyrie. So
yeah, I think realistically, man, if this opportunity to have Kyrie come to you in free agency would have happened, I think back in 2021, after they lost that first round series to the Suns.
The first round series to the Suns, yeah.
I think that would have been the year that they could have done it, because at that point, okay, LeBron has at least 3 more years at this same level left. Realistically, now we're working on probably thinking he has about 2, maybe 1 more season left at the level he's at currently. At a point when, the team was in a disarray, to be quite honest. I mean, they got blown out by the Suns. They looked really, really good for the first 2 games. They lost the first game. They won the second game. They came home. They won game 3. And then they lost 3 straight in blowout fashion against a team that ultimately went to the finals. But I think that was the opportunity to do it. So I think you're probably right. I think he probably ends up staying. And one thing that other people have not noticed, and I've talked about this off camera with some of my buddies and friends, is that people don't realize this, but Kyrie's first child, his daughter, he has a daughter. He now has a son that's very young with his wife that he's married to now. But he has a daughter that I think probably is around 8 or 9 years old. Her mother is from the Dallas area. It's not, I may be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure that his daughter lives here with her mother. Everybody has to take into account Kyrie's family man. He's a guy that values family. He values the people that he has close to him because he's very closed off, right? He doesn't let a lot of people into his circle. So if having an opportunity to move again for a 3rd time in 5 years, or stay where he's at, where his child is, where he's already moved to, is an option. I think that that's something he will strongly consider as being better for him long term, because I'm pretty sure that his daughter and the mother of his first child still live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So we'll leave that there, man. The next thing we wanted to talk about, just before we get into, like we said, the boxing topic is our last talking point of the day, is legacy, do you feel, could be most impacted by winning a championship this season? You talk about LeBron winning a 5th ring. You talk about Curry winning, a 5th ring. You talk about Joel Embiid winning a 1st ring and finally getting over the hump there. If you want to talk about Jason Tatum redeeming himself for the bad finals performance from last season, Jokic finally winning a championship after 2 MVPs that a lot of people argue he didn't deserve because of how bad his team went out in the playoffs. All of these great players have a great chance to win the championship. In your mind, who do you think that this affects the most? And I forgot to even mention Giannis. Giannis, if he wins another championship, I mean, everybody knows what that could do for his legs.
Yeah, well, I mean, the barbershop talk is always like, oh, but he don't got a ring, right? So, like, when I think of legacy, Steph Curry is stamped, all right. LeBron James stamped. You have to look at the people that you can foresee being there multiple times. That's Giannis, who has one. So I think that he's in a good position in terms of his legacy right now. But you're looking at guys like Jason Tatum and Joel Embiid. I mean, I think those 2 are going to be dominant in this league for a very long time. When I say long time, I think Tatum's probably going to be, the next generation where kids are putting, like they did, Steph jerseys and whatnot. And that's going to be Jason Tatum and Joel Embiid. I think Tatum should probably get one before Joel. I think that he's going to, since he's already been there, and he's got a really good surrounding group. I mean, Joel, I can foresee a lot of different changes happening with him or his team, meaning he's going to be unhappy eventually because once James Harden can't be James Harden anymore, at least 75%, because we all know James Harden is not who he was in Houston.
Right.
And he shows spurts and flashes of helping Embiid, but it's not like he can do it all by himself anymore. And that's where I think Tatum can. Jason Tatum, I have seen different versions of him where he can literally will his team to victory. And Joel, I've seen that in the same light. But I think there's going to be so much happening with Philadelphia if they don't get it done this year. I think Doc is gone if they don't win, and I think that James, there's a lot of talk about him going back to Houston just because he loves Houston. So Tatum. I think Tatum, to answer your question, his legacy will be the most impacted by this in a positive way.
I think for me, man, I can see the point of, winning a ring, being in the ring club, right? Being in that golden standard of the best player on an NBA championship winning team, winning NBA Finals MVP is a very, very, small club, right? There's only so many guys that have been in that club. But I'm going to go ahead and say that it's Giannis. I think that if Giannis wins a second championship, wins a second Finals MVP, I think that what it realistically says is that we start having to look at him and Kevin Durant in the same light. I think that that's what it means. I think that that generationally, he becomes a top 15 all-time NBA player if he wins this second ring in a small market where his second best player is Jrue Holiday, who everybody knows is a great, great, great player. But Jrue Holiday is I'd say he's a B to a B minus star when you talk about the level of players, when you talk about the level of co-stars other players have. Because I think that Chris Middleton, with all of his injuries and all the times that he's missed, he's realistically now become the third option on that team.
Right.
But I think if Giannis is able to win a second championship, a second, Finals MVP to go along with what I think he has 2 regular season MVPs, I think that puts him up there in the top 15. It puts him beside Kevin Durant as great.
Man, everyone forgets about the Bucks. I keep forgetting about they're I forget about Giannis just because he's so dominant, and it's just like you can't really do nothing with a force like that. I mean, he's that used to be LeBron's tag, is just with his athleticism, but now that he's gotten older, that has passed on to Giannis. But I just feel that Milwaukee, the small market, it's good for the city, so it's a good option. I can't personally compare him to KD just because of the style of play and the way KD went about his career. I could see Giannis finishing in Milwaukee, for 20 seasons. I think he has that in him. KD, whether you like him or not, one of the most skilled offensive basketball players that we have ever seen in this league. But, again, another one of those players that you have those fans that are your fans because they like what they see on the court. And then you have those fans or those people, those critics that, they're going to talk a lot about your legacy off the court and the moves that you've made, like they know you. So Giannis, I think everybody loves. I don't know one person that I've gotten to an argument where they're like, I don't like Giannis, but I've had plenty of people talk about they don't like KD. So.
Right. Yeah, 100%, man. And I think ultimately, while their games may not be similar, I think when we talk about the ranking or the way that they are regarded, right? Because I think everybody, any NBA fan you talk to will say and feel comfortable saying, KD is a top 20 all-time player right now. If he retires right at this moment, he's a top 20 all-time. I think that this puts Giannis into that conversation as a top 20 player, because you're talking about putting him alongside guys like Isaiah Thomas, alongside guys like, Larry Bird. You're talking guys who have won, 2 or more regular season MVPs, 2 or more Finals MVPs, 2 or more NBA championships. That's a very, very elite club of guys that have done that. And Giannis would be added to that if he wins this season.
Quick question for you. Not to go too much off topic. Is he better than Barkley? You choose him or Barkley right now?
Right now, if you're putting them in their prime, I'm probably going to have to say yes, because Barkley had an opportunity in 2 occasions. He had an opportunity when Dr. J retired, and he was the main guy on the Sixers to, at the very least, get them to the Eastern Conference Finals, to play against the Pistons, to play against Jordan, and he was not able to do that. And then he had that great opportunity, that one fantastic year in '93 when he was on the Suns. He won regular MVP, where it was a 2-3-2 format in the finals. They had 3 games at home. They had won one of the 2 games on the road to end the series. It ended there, and for whatever reason, they let go of the rope. Giannis is not facing a Jordan, so maybe he benefits from the era that he's in. But if he wins 2 championships and he has 2 MVPs, regular season, and 2 Finals MVPs, I can't say that I wouldn't take him over Barkley. I can't say that I wouldn't take him over Malone. I think realistically, at that point, you're only talking about possibly 2 guys at the power forward position now that would be definitively better than him and ahead of him. And I'm talking about Kevin Garnett and Tim Duncan. I think those are the only 2 guys.
Oh no, I think that's. I mean, I agree with you. I was talking with somebody the other day that said they take Barkley over Giannis, and I was just trying to ask him how. so I totally agree with you. I think Giannis in that first ring cemented it, but I think just if you look at the dominance of the game, Charles was. Man, the dude was a beast. He was dominant, and like you said, when he had that chance, he didn't capitalize. I think Giannis, you give him a chance, he's more likely to capitalize by himself. And he doesn't have what other people have in today's game. He doesn't have that other B plus. I call it B plus. You said B minus, but he has a good surrounding cast. He's coached well, but I think his presence on the court, he attracts so much attention, even defensively. People will not attack his side on the defensive floor, and just sort of swing the ball. But I mean, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, man. And I think ultimately what you end up talking about between all of the great power forwards of all time is, you're talking about, winning championships. You're talking about production. You're talking about accolades individually. And then you're talking about the impact that they have on their teams. Everybody forgets. And I mean, unfortunately, I'm sorry we have to include it, but, Charles also went to, another great team in the Houston Rockets, just a year removed from the championship that they won. And it didn't work out with him and Pippen and Olajuwon. It didn't work, and I think he even played a year with Clyde before Clyde retired, and they got Pippen after that. So, great player, not anything to take away from in that aspect. But the longer that history goes on, the more there is, other guys that skip over you. That's just how things work. But now, man, we're going to go ahead and move on to the final topic of the day, man, and it's going to be this right here. We are basically, we are less than. This graphic is old. This graphic is from yesterday. We are 2 days away from what possibly could be what people say here in the U.S. boxing market is the fight that saves boxing as a whole. Now, I'm not hyperbolic. I'm not a guy who believes that as a boxing purist. When when you talk about pure boxing fans, you're talking about guys that watch boxing every weekend. This for me is a really, really great fight. I'm going to pay to watch it. But it's not a fight to me that changes my stance on how good boxing is. But what it may do is change that for people that are casual fans who don't necessarily always watch boxing. Immediately, what's your thoughts when the fight was made, man? And now that we are on the eve of it, what's your thoughts moving with this fight coming up?
Man, I'll tell you what. Everyone knows Tank. You hear him whether you watch ESPN Sport News at the end of the night when he fights. You'll hear about him or social media. I think he's right now probably the best pound for pound guy. But I have followed, as they say, King Ryan Garcia since this dude I was living in San Diego back in I want to say what 2018, and I had ran into a gym. I was just looking for a gym, and I ran into a trainer, and the trainer's like, "Hey, man, we're gonna need this spot. I got Ryan Garcia coming through." I was
Mm.
like, I don't know who that is. Like,
Right, right,
who the
right.
hell's Ryan Garcia? You know what I mean? So he comes through, and I'm looking at this kid, very skinny frame, and he's just, I mean, this I've never seen, and I don't watch. It's not like I watch boxers train for a living, but I've never seen somebody work out like how he did in a boxing setting. It was inspirational, and I mean, this dude has a left hook, bro. I'm telling you, that left hand, even though he looks a little bit thin, and he's more of a grown man now as he's getting older. But I mean, I think he has a legit shot to do something in this fight. I don't think Tank has ever faced somebody with a quick and powerful,
Mhm.
and it could give him some problems on the length as well. I mean, Ryan's taller than him, a lot taller than him. So I think it's going to be a lot closer than what people think. And I think the media just, or social media just came out with a bet that they made, that they're betting each other's purse.
Yeah,
Um, so the motivation is there, and I can't wait for it, man. I'm going to be tuning in for sure.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely a fight that crosses over. When you talk about teens and tweens that Ryan has as fans, you talk about 9 million Instagram followers. Some of
Hmm.
those might be duplicates, but he's probably got 7, 8 million followers on Twitter. Gervonta Davis is hovering around 3 to 4 million followers. So both of these guys are very well regarded in the American market. They both have a
Hmm.
lot of fanfare. They have a lot of support. They do well at the ticket booth. Whenever they fight. The fight is in Vegas. It's at a time where there's not be a lot of other things going on as far as sports is concerned. I mean, of course, the MLB has just started. We got the NBA
Hmm.
playoffs going on, but those are series. So some people might choose to skip out on one game here or there because it's all be all. I think this is the perfect storm and the perfect time for them to have done this fight. This is the reason why I think a lot of times you'll see the biggest boxing matches happen in this late April, early May, and then again at the end of the summer, right before baseball playoffs start in the early September, late August period of time, because it's a time where they can get the U.S. market's attention.
Hmm.
Viewership on baseball has dwindled a lot, so baseball doesn't really have the effect that it used to have.
Right.
It was a niche sport audience where there's not so many people watching hockey as much as they maybe used to in times past. So really, at that point, you're really only competing with maybe 2 or 3 NBA playoff games that might be on that night. So there's definitely going to be a lot of eyes on it. If I had to give a number, and I've given this number on social media before to some of my boxing friends, I think this fight does somewhere around 600,000, maybe 700,000 pay-per-view buys, which is a strong showing because in the American market, this fight, nobody else does that amount of pay-per-views other than Canelo. Canelo's the only guy in
Right.
boxing that does 600 plus no matter who he fights. He could fight you or me, and he would do 600,000. So, great fight, great matchup. I'm looking forward to it because these two guys genuinely like they have a disdain for each other. They genuinely
Hmm.
seem like guys that know that after all of the mess that they've talked, all of the trash talk that's happened back and forth, this is the opportunity that they're going to have to go in there and prove it. And if they don't, it's going to be really difficult to deal with. So I think that that's been motivation enough for these two guys. I'm looking forward to it. And just to give some details to everybody that does watch, because this is primarily a boxing show, we ball and football as well. But we did get official word. T and I did announce it on our social media pages about 2 weeks ago. You actually, as an American boxing fan, will have 2 ways that you can watch this fight. You can watch this fight through Showtime. If you have a subscription, it's just an additional $85 to buy that pay-per-view if you have a subscription to Showtime. Or if you do not have a subscription to Showtime, you can get a free month trial plus the pay-per-view as a package deal if you don't already have it. There's another option if you'd like that as well, which is the option that I believe I'm going to be going with. For a current DAZN subscription subscriber, you will be able to get this fight as a part of your DAZN subscription for an additional $60. And for anybody that does not already have a DAZN subscription, you can buy the fight with a month free subscription to DAZN for just $75. So that's something out there for everybody to consider which option they'd like to go with. Me as a guy who has both options, I'm going to save myself about $20 by getting it on DAZN. I do have Showtime as well. So a lot of ways to watch this fight. And that just goes to show you, when you get two networks to get together to put a fight on, that tells you how big of a deal that they think it is, because that does not happen very often. I mean, for my UFC fans, just imagine if Bellator had a middleweight champ that did a co-promotional deal to fight a UFC middleweight champ, and they let you watch the fight on both networks. There you go.
Oh, man. They would be jumping off the hook, man.
Absolutely. So, again, appreciate you, Devon, for joining me, man. I really, really appreciate the time. Thank everybody who joined on, left comments. And thank you to everybody else that's been supporting all of our other shows, supporting all of our clips, episodes, shorts, reels, all that different stuff. We appreciate it. Please like, comment, and subscribe down below this video here. Make sure that you are tuned in, because we are bringing you sports news, sports talk on a weekly basis. And we will see you guys again really, really closer and closer to not only the NBA Finals, but also to get you guys' reaction to the Gervonta Tank Davis fight against Ryan Garcia this weekend. We hope you watch. We know we will be too. Peace out.
Thanks for having me.